out to the trails in Jersey. Last day here, had a little bit of a diversion there. My original quote-unquote hometown trails were closed for a deer hunt today. I know they do that kind of thing, but not something I was really thinking about, having not run over there for quite some time. You can see the trail situation that I'm working with here. We had a storm roll through over the weekend. Bitter cold again today. 18 degrees Fahrenheit. Probably even colder, some of these little pockets here. Following yellow blazes so far, which is the Lenape Trail. I actually did a Lenape run years ago, and I know this kind of winds from Newark over to Somo, where it ends, through here. But sections of road, I definitely remember entering through here. I have to check maybe ultrasign up and see where I stand in that. That was so long ago. It's kind of a unofficial local urban / trail event, really fun. I was hoping to do a good technical trail test comparison between the On Cloudultra Pro and the new Kiprun Kipsummit race here. But unfortunately, all the technical terrain, trust me, there's plenty of rocks under here. Everything just buried under the snow here. So not sure I'm gonna get what I wanted out of this test run. Perhaps I'll just focus on fit and feel comparisons here and wait for a follow-up down the line. I will give you my ride comparisons on this one though. Have been running in both of these shoes, obviously the On more than the new Kiprun shoe. I did that 108K in the On. A couple test runs though, only in the Kiprun shoe. I've been kind of waiting for the right scenarios to fully test it, but I did have the Cloudultra Pro here on my radar as perhaps one of the most comparable shoes to the Kiprun. Both of these shoes are lightweight racers, that is relative to the higher stack plated trail super shoe category. Energetic super foams underfoot, both plated, but they do take quite different approaches to their plate strategy, which I'll talk about. 9.8 ounces with the Cloudultra Pro, and slightly lower 9.5 ounces with the Kipsummit Race. Helion HF foam in the Cloudultra Pro. That is dual layer setup there. Got those Cloud Tech pods in there. HF Hyper Foam is a P-Bax based foam. Dual layer, you got a little bit softer flavor closer to the foot and a little firmer closer to the ground, as you see in many trail midsole setups. With the Kipsummit Race, you have full ATPU with a carbon fiber plate sandwich in there. Not a dual layer setup. You have the same foam throughout, sandwiched on top and bottom of the plate. On uses their speed board design in the Cloudultra Pro. It is dual fork X-shaped design, nylon fiberglass plate, not carbon fiber here. Not familiar with this place, that's why I wanted to go to Somo. I know I can't get too far lost here. They're kind of in a pretty enclosed area here. All the trails are surrounded by dense urban housing and such. But it is a little bit of an oasis here to be kind of out here by yourself. I've got both of these models here in the US 10, but there are slight differences in sizing here. Right off the bat, I was initially skeptical about the Kipsummit Race sizing. The 10 felt a little bit oversized, but as I've been running in it, it feels appropriate to me. Once I warm up enough here to pull over and do a close-up, I'll kind of walk you through the fit of both of these models here. Generally speaking though, I find a little bit more volume with the On shoe over the top of the foot, maybe in the front of the toe box, while the Kiprun shoe seems to wrap the foot a little tighter over the top of the foot, strap the foot down more, and pushes your foot into the midsole. But take a closer look again in a minute. Nice little backyard these folks have got here. Both of these shoes do have a pretty standard 6mm drop. You've got 39-33 with the On and 37-31 with the Kiprun. Might have gone in a circle here. I'm not exactly sure. You may see a touch lower measurement with the On and a touch higher measurement from Kiprun as far as stack heights, but my measurements I just posted there are based on my actual measurements at the heel in my US 10 for both of these here. Yeah, I did run in a circle here. Maybe I'll try to find something different. Not that it's gonna make too much difference with all this snow underfoot here. So while there is a 2mm difference here with the On shoe being higher, that's typically what I would call a negligible difference there. But I think it's more noticeable when I have both of these shoes on foot. The Kiprun feels like a flatter shoe on the ground. It does have a wider platform. I feel the ride of the shoe, the narrower platform plus the 2mm with the Cloudultra Pro makes the shoe feel a little bit taller in comparison to the race here. Ground platforms here, 118, 70, 92 with the On, 119, 90, 98 with the Kiprun. Really not too much difference at the front of the shoe there, 1mm in fact, but quite a large differential around the middle of the foot mostly. Also the rear there, you've got 20 extra millimeter underfoot in the middle of the shoe there with the Kiprun, and also 6mm more under the heel as far as ground platform width on the ground. 20mm under the middle of the shoe, that's a huge difference, and that's notable in itself. And then when you throw in the fact that the shoe is actually 0.3 ounce lighter here in my size with that much of a big difference, 20mm under the middle of the shoe, that just kind of shows that you're dealing with a very super foam here. That ATPU is something new and exciting from Kiprun and across other brands. Trail running shoes, even obviously road super shoes, have been in on the ATPU game probably a little longer. But I think that's just a clear example again of what these foams can do as far as being a game changer in how shoes are designed on trails. You obviously want to be more stable. It's more of a concern than road running. And if you can widen out that platform and still maintain that stack that you're looking for especially ultra distances, and keep the weight down or perhaps even lower, especially compared to previous generation shoes, it's just incredible what they can do these days. Got New Jersey East Coast trail running here, pretty rugged trails. Road right next to me. New York City off in the distance. Could kind of see what's underfoot beneath this snow here. No doubt about it, pretty rocky and rugged out here on the East Coast. And the not so fun aspect, I find myself in a giant parking lot here trying to figure out where the trail continues on. I somewhat remember a trailhead over here somewhere. Oh, there we go. Have to remember how to follow blazes again. And they could be on anything around here, not just trees. Coming back to that midsole platform combination here, that width under the middle of the shoe does give the Kipsummit Race an edge. Of course, in the snow right now, gives it that kind of snowshoe wide feel underfoot, at least a little bit as far as shoes go. I don't find the On shoe to be unstable at all. It just feels tall, perhaps something you just have to manage a little bit more relative to the Kiprun shoe. But if you are used to running in any kind of trail super shoes, you're kind of aware of the fact that you want that higher, bouncier, more energetic stack, sometimes with some type of plate in the mix. So you're well aware that you're gonna have to manage a little bit more instability. So not a detriment with the On shoe, but I am comparing these two shoes here, and I do think that the Kiprun shoe feels wider on the ground. It does feel more stable, and also the difference in fit here also comes into play when I want to compare the stability of these two shoes. Foothold, huge factor in trail shoes. Both are a wide volume toe box, but in slightly different ways. You could probably tell visually there's slightly more taper at the front of this Kipsummit Race here. The On is very squared off, something I talked about in earlier review, something that was surprising from On. This is a wide toe box, and it maintains that width up to the front there. You could see it's very squared off. You have a more traditional kind of narrowing here with the French shoe here, Kiprun model there. Also, more volume over the top of the foot. You can see this right here, a little bit of looseness, more material, more vertical height in this shoe compared to the Kiprun. This shoe throughout, not just in the toe box, from the middle of the shoe on forward and at the top of the laces here, it's just a little bit shallower over the top of the foot. It feels like it wants the upper itself, not just via the lacing, the shape of the upper wants to come over the top of the foot and press your foot down into the midsole. ATPU here, just extremely energetic. Carbon fiber plate in comparison to nylon fiberglass here. It does feel like a more energetic, reactive shoe, and I think they wanted to really make sure your foot is held here because it feels like a faster shoe. It feels like you're popping off the ground a little bit more in this shoe. This one has a kind of a smoother feel on the run, less aggressive ride. I think that's where they come to the difference in fit here. Both US 10s, I note a little bit of extra length. Actually, between these two shoes, only a touch extra length in this Kipsummit Race here. Compared to the Max, I think it's quite noticeable. The other model from Kiprun, I almost considered seeing if I could go to a 9.5. They didn't have one on hand, so I was not able to try it. So I stuck with the 10 here. I am actually quite happy that I have it. Again, this is another shoe. Check out my rad UFO review. I tried on a 9.5 and 10 in that one, and similarly, I find the 10 a little bit long, but with the little taper up front, I think that's fine in the trail shoe. I've probably got a full thumbs here, which feels long when you're standing in it, but when you're out on the trails, especially if you want to take this in an ultra race, a long race, you want to have that kind of extra length in front of the toe box. Again, with the rocker there, you're going to be pushed up a little forward, and also the narrowness. So I would say don't be afraid of going up that half size here if you want it. But if you do have a narrow foot, and if you know you like a really tight fit, then you could probably go true to size in this one. Same with the On shoe here. If you have a narrow foot, it's probably even more imperative to stick with true to size here, just because you can kind of see how boxy it is, how much more vertical space, looseness over the top of the foot that you kind of have in this upper here compared to this one. You could kind of see it's really on top of my foot here. Although not obtrusive, and I like to lace it. Again, I like that feel. I like it strapped down as long as I have the length. I have gotten comments on this shoe already, asking about breathability, asking about the rigidity of the upper. You could kind of see how this one is wide open, extremely flexible upper here with the On. This one's more closed up in comparison, and I also feel it is a bit more rigid. Early stages of testing for me in this Kipsummit Race model here. I'm gonna
feel out breathability. Obviously, I don't want too much breathability today. I can't say that it's an issue. I wore wool socks today because it's about 18 degrees or 15 degrees Fahrenheit right now. So I will follow up on breathability, but it is a more rigid upper. I think you can get away more easily going up the half size in this one as long as you don't have that narrow foot. I also got another comment about someone, I believe they said they went down half a size. I definitely would not go say, this is a 10, my true to size is a 9.5. I could definitely go 9.5 for shorter distances, probably everyday running. I definitely wouldn't go down a half a size, but that's gonna depend on how different runners size their shoes. If you call your true to size as being a little bigger than I call my true to size, then perhaps you can go down a half size. I wouldn't go to a 9 in this by any means. And he talked about getting some pinky toe rubbing, and that is an area, I kind of feel it right here. Again, the shallowness of it right here could be a point where this toe box takes the turn. If you're down a half size, that little turn is gonna come a little earlier where your pinky toe is. No such issue here in this shoe. I mean, the upper is just a little bit looser, and I think it stays more square on the lateral side here. This one, you could kind of see it just shoots over the top of the foot here. So careful with that area on sizing, especially if you know you have a sensitive pinky toe, especially, or whatever. You want to be careful with your sizing in that regard. Other differences in the upper here, they both have these handy kind of lace loops here. I always like that. Standard tongue here, gusseted with the on shoe. Booty design here, I got another comment that it was tricky to get into. I don't mind that. It's not a super tight kind of knit collar here, but when you're putting it on, this is a little tight in the front here, so you kind of have to, it doesn't bother me. I mean, if I have to spend an extra 3 seconds putting my shoe on and it gives me a more secure fit, I don't have any issue with that at all. Little kind of different setup here. Again, it's a booty, there's no tongue, there's no gussets. That's probably one of the reasons why it feels like a more strappy fit. You don't have like softer tongue materials being wrapped over by the sides of the upper as you do with the on shoe. The lace kind of comes through here, comes out here, something I talked about in my earlier video. That's kind of unique. This is a little high, I would say. I guess this upper, being that it's a booty design and you don't have like extra padding from a tongue underneath here, maybe this would potentially give, it doesn't bother me at all. They handily put this nice little padding over the center, so that takes the pressure or any bite away from this lace crossing here, the knot here, and I don't feel this being an issue. Again, I will see as I test this and definitely race in this shoe in 2026 if this turns out to be any kind of issue. Also the pinky thing, I don't feel like it is right now, but the shoe does feel quite spacious for me in the 10, so depending on how you size this one when you get it, you may have varying degrees of comfort in that regard. Got some snow in my pots here. Let's get out on the run.
You might be wondering how I'm using a bladder hose in this type of cold here. Yeah, it's frozen. Didn't think of that one. This is definitely my coldest run of the year so far. We've had crazy weather pattern in Idaho. Jet stream is situated that we are missing all the cold, all the snow. It's just terrible for winter sports or real winter weather back home in Idaho. They have to fence the trail runners in over here so they don't get loose out in the real world. No, just kidding, that's for the deer. Kind of tough to get a handle on the ride of the shoes out here. Not what I expected. If I had been here a few days earlier, I would have the trail conditions that I would want to test these shoes in, or I was hoping to test these shoes in. So let's call this a part one. Definitely gonna do a follow up when I have suitable testing conditions. This has been a fun run though. I hope you enjoyed coming along with me. I know if you typically tune into the channel, I do most of my test runs close to home, and the trails do look quite a bit buffed out, quite a bit benign. The stuff that I have access to, at least right outside of my doorstep, literally from my house, I can run. Over here, I had to take quite a bit of a drive to get over here, so easier access out there. But this is where I did start my trail running journey. Not this particular park, South Mountain, which was closed for the deer hunt. First trail race, Feb Apple, 10 miler. Shout out to NJ Trail Series. That was in 2017. Got my Sasquatch trail running buff here. Shout out to Kim at Sasquatch. If you're ever in the area, look those two up. NJ Trail Series, Sasquatch trail parties, awesome local trail running. That is what the sport, what the community is all about. Those types of race directors, those types of events. Where the heck am I? Keep going here. So yeah, check those out if you're ever in the New Jersey area, New York, New Jersey area. Get people from all over coming to those events. Grown a lot since I moved out to Idaho. Woo. Bit of general commentary on the ride though. I have run in the On again extensively. Did a 108K race in them, and not as much in the Kiprun, but a few test runs so far. It feels like the Kiprun, that is, more energetic shoe, more poppy off the ground, perhaps more of an aggressive racing shoe. I really have to see how comfortable I'll feel taking this shoe for perhaps something like 108K like I did with the On. I know Blondine wore this shoe at Diagonal des Fous, but I also know that she changed into the Max at the end of that race. So that is something I want to feel out, but it may end up taking me doing a long ultra race later in the season to really figure that out. The ride of the Cloudultra Pro, I feel like, is the friendlier of the two. Feels a little bit softer, I would say. Again, you have a little bit more stack, and it does feel like that nylon fiberglass plate, a little more forgiving under the foot. Perhaps it was stiffness, firmness that was getting to Blondine at the end of that race with the carbon fiber plate underfoot. It is forked up front in the Kipsummit race, as it is with the speed board here in the On, but it generally feels like a softer shoe, less aggressive pop off the ground with the Cloudultra Pro. Again, this is going based on experience, not that I'm popping off this snow right now, but it also feels like with the On, you get a little bit more support in terms of cushion under the heel. You don't have that aggressive kind of heel rocker. You have that a little bit with the Kiprun, where the tail of the shoe has that little rocker to it. Nothing like the Adidas Speed Ultra, but a little more noticeable than the On. The On just feels pretty solid in the back there. So I've always felt that that feels more kind of reliable, a more stable feel for the general runner out there. It doesn't feel as aggressive as some of the other super shoe racy type geometry. That's why I always kind of say this is the super shoe for the people here, the Cloudultra Pro. Winding my way back now. I will do one more quick close-up when I get back to the car. It's always fun to come out here and hitting these rocks again. Crazy terrain out here. Totally different world out on the East Coast. For those of you that, yeah, see that smooth buffed out terrain by my house, just know that I started out over here. I know my way around technical terrain, and a lot of the racing I actually do out west, even out in different parts of Idaho, pretty rough. So even though I may not be having access to that all the time, rocks, roots, especially out here on the East Coast, all that kind of crazy stuff, I do have that on my mind and experience with that as I'm testing out all these different trail shoes. Jeez. Last thing I want to look at here before I let you go, Outsoles here, Mission Grip rubber with the On Vibram Mega Grip, of course, with the Kipsummit Race here. These are 3.5 millimeter lugs, but you can see the setup here. Pretty wide and spaced out. You get a lot more lug coverage here. I believe these are 4. They're definitely deeper than this one. I haven't exactly measured them, but they're a little worn down by now. They would be possibly a pretty low 3.5 millimeters, where this is a pretty stout 4 here with the Kiprun shoe, Vibram Mega Grip, of course. Not top of mind today. I was slipping in both of these shoes out on this dry snow, so not too much of a difference, but you can see the mud on here from previous tests running out in Idaho. I like the grip of this one. It's going to be a big factor, I think, for many runners. This is definitely light in terms of outsole lug coverage here. It's okay in that Western US runnable type of terrain. You can get by with this just enough. It's plenty, in fact. I did that 108K, pretty rugged out there, but generally dry. If you know that traction outsole coverage is a concern, that is definitely a plus with the Kiprun shoe here. So thanks for tuning in once again to Humble Running, perhaps not the test run I was looking for. Stay tuned for part 2. I'll have these shoes out on the trails in dry conditions. In part 2, I won't go over the specs and all that kind of stuff. Got that out of the way here, so I'll focus on the ride, get into some faster running dry conditions just for comparison there. Thank you for tuning in to Humble Running. Like and subscribe if you like. I've got links in the description below, videos that are of interest in relation to these shoes, more so with the On, and a couple already out with the Kipsummit Max. I know these shoes are trickling out into the marketplace. I think they're both available. I don't think in the US yet. Probably in Europe right now. So if you do have either one of these shoes, either the Kiprun Kipsummit Race or the Max, let me know down in the comments what you think. I would like to know how these are hitting for you, how my impressions of the shoe relate to your feelings out on the run. Always like to hear feedback from runners from real world testing, as I do out here. Thank you for watching, tuning into Humble Running in New Jersey. I will catch you back in Idaho.